Welcome back, friends. It's Anders. Today we're making 5 Scotch cocktails. Last week we talked all about Scotch, so this week we're putting that Scotch into drinks. Now I'm going to do 5 drinks that span from the late 1800s to present day, and we're gonna go through this chronologically. Now you could make these drinks with 1 bottle of Scotch, but I thought it'd be a little bit more fun to use different whiskeys for each drink. So I'm gonna show you the bottles that I'm using, and I'm gonna tell you why I picked those bottles. If you wanna learn more about the styles of Scotch and the regions, then watch or rewatch last week's episode. So let's get going. I'm probably gonna start with number 1 and finish with number 5. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for more sips, tips, and recipes, and let's go make 5 Scotch cocktails. To the bar. Today's video is sponsored by Viski. Viski makes premium barware, glassware, ice molds, smoking contraptions, pretty much everything a cocktail enthusiast, such as myself and my colleague here, could ask for. Today, we are here to show you our latest addition. This is the Reserve Milo Crystal Decanter. I already had the matching lowball glasses. I do love these. I have used them in the past and I will be using them again today. But now, with the decanter, my set is complete. This holds 28 fluid ounces, so it's plenty of space for your favorite bottle of booze. And it's also made from 100% lead-free European crystal, right? Yeah. Lead-free is important because some vintage crystal may have lead in it. This has a vintage feel with the luxuries of modern day safety precautions. Oh, we've got cocktails to make later. Better take it easy. Luckily, there is a beautiful stopper topper. That's the technical term. Use code Anders15 at checkout and get 15% off site-wide. So whether you want this decanter, or you want a different decanter, or you hate decanters, you want to get something else, there's lots to choose from. This is just a sampling. That about does it for this advertisement. Unless my colleague here has anything they would like to add? Fred, you have anything you'd like to add? Thank you, Viski. On to the film. All right, let's get this show on the road. Number 1, the Morning Glory Fizz. This one dates back to the late 1800s, maybe even mid 1800s. None of us were there to witness the birth of this drink. And it is Scotch-based. It has a little bit of absinthe in it, so you'd think this is a monster drink, but it's actually created as a hangover cure. Because this drink was meant as a hangover cure and meant to be consumed earlier in the day, I am using a lowland Scotch, Auchentoshan. This Scotch is smooth, easy, it's not going to overpower the drink, and it's a good way to start off this list. We're gonna start with an egg white. If you wanna go egg-free, add 3/4 of an ounce of aquafaba instead. Now we can add 2 ounces of Scotch, 3/4 of an ounce of a semi-rich simple syrup. This is 1.5 parts sugar to 1 part water, 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lemon juice, 1/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice. If you don't have the lime, you can go all lemon, but if you have both, try it with lemon and lime. And 1 bar spoon, that's 5 milliliters of absinthe. Just a little bit. Give that a dry shake, meaning shake without ice, for about 15 seconds. This will get it nice and fluffy. Then add ice and shake for another 15 seconds. Grab a chilled highball glass, pour in about 1 ounce of bubbly water. It can be sparkling mineral water, club soda, whatever you have. Double strain into the glass. Take your time with this. We don't want it to foam over. Patience is key. Once you get that nice fluffy top, express orange oil across the top. There we have the Morning Glory Fizz. Cheers. One way to start your day. I was ready for that. I have to tell you, this is a really tasty drink. I don't think enough people try this one. It kind of, on paper, it looks weird, but trust me, in the glass, it is divine. The absinthe you get a little bit at the end. I know some people will rinse the glass or mist this over the top, but I really like it mixed all in there. I do get the Scotch, but it's not too much. Outstanding, outstanding. Good start. So now on to number 2, the Affinity Cocktail. This one dates back to the early 1900s and recipes have changed over the years. In fact, there's a few different ways that you can make this one. I'm going with a pretty classic build. It has more or less become a perfect Rob Roy, which is to say equal parts sweet and dry vermouth. I like it all equal parts, and I like to have this as more of an aperitif cocktail. I make it in smaller amounts. To make this version of the Affinity Cocktail, I am using a single malt island whiskey. Talisker is smoky, kind of briny, and it's got a big flavor because we're gonna be adding a good amount of vermouth. So we want that strong flavor to hold up. Start in a mixing glass with 3/4 of an ounce of scotch, add 3/4 of an ounce of sweet vermouth, 3/4 of an ounce of dry or blanc vermouth. I'm using blanc vermouth because personally, I like it better, but dry vermouth will work as well. Then add 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. If you have a small dasher bottle, double up 4 little dashes. Add ice and stir, about 30 seconds or so. Strain off into a chilled cocktail glass, express lemon oil across the top, and that's it. There we have the Affinity Cocktail. Cheers. It's like I have my own personal bartender. Me. The Affinity Cocktail. Now that is a tasty drink. I like vermouth. That island whiskey, that single malt, really shines through, and it's not taking over the rich vermouths that we're using here. So it has a richness, it has kind of a salty, smoky quality to it, slightly bitter on the finish, big flavor. It is a good aperitif is what I'm trying to say. And it is really good with this whiskey in particular. There's something special with that little extra smoke. Number 3, Bobby Burns. The Bobby Burns is similar to the Affinity Cocktail in that they both kind of have this Rob Roy thing going on, both from the early 1900s. I am taking a different approach than I did with the Affinity Cocktail. It's gonna be a little bit stronger on the whiskey, so I'm gonna be using a milder whiskey. In fact, I'm gonna be using a single malt Highland whiskey. The Aberfeldy 12-year is really light, smooth. Aberfeldy, Berks of Aberfeldy, for all of you Robbie Burns fans, and it actually works really well in this drink. So, in a mixing glass, start with 2 ounces of scotch, add 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, and ½ an ounce of Benedictine. Add ice and stir, strain off into a chilled cocktail glass, express lemon oil across the top, and that's it, the Bobby Burns. Easy one, cheers. This one, I have to tell you, I don't know, you can't see it from where you are. Maybe in some of Oz's close-ups you can, but I just love the color of this one. I think it's a very beautiful drink. Let's go in for a sip. Yeah, very, very different than the Affinity, I think. It has a honey sweetness. The scotch is not abrasive at all, very soft. This is a bit more of a dessert drink, whereas the other one I think of as more of a before dinner aperitif. I do think if you're looking to break into scotch, the Bobby Burns with a nice light scotch is a really good intro. We must carry on. Number 4, the Penicillin. We are fast forwarding 100 years or so here, because this drink wasn't created until 2005 by Sam Ross. This is considered a modern classic, really tasty. What's interesting about this one, it's a sour style cocktail, and we are gonna be using 2 scotches. As a base, I like using a blended malt whiskey. Monkey Shoulder has a nice sweetness to it, a little malty. We are also gonna be adding its polar opposite, a single malt Islay Scotch. It's the Lefroy 10-year. This one's really big, bold, smoky, and it will punch you in the face. So we're only gonna be using a little bit. First things first, we need to slice up some ginger. I don't know if you saw that one coming. Take 3 or 4 slices of ginger, drop them into a cheater tin, and mush that up, muddle it up. Just mash away, we want a pulp here. Then in the larger tin, add 2 ounces of your softer whiskey, the base whiskey, 3/4 of an ounce of a honey syrup. This is 3 parts honey to 1 part water, 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lemon juice, and then 1/4 of an ounce of your Islay Scotch, your big smoky scotch. Sam Ross originally said float this on top, but we are mixing it in here because I like it that way. It's your call. Add ice and shake, about 15 seconds or so. Then in a low ball, drop in 1 large ice chunk, or smaller cubes if you don't have it, and double strain onto the ice. You definitely want to double strain this, otherwise you're gonna get chunks of ginger in there. You don't want that. Get it all in the glass, looks beautiful. Why not add candied ginger for a garnish? Yes, please. There we are, the Penicillin. Cheers. Oh yeah, that's good. That is good. It's got a bite of ginger. I know a lot of people like to use a ginger syrup. You could make a honey ginger syrup, All of it's gonna be really good. The fresh ginger gives it an extra oomph. That with the Islay Scotch, big flavor, but still refreshing, bright, just what the doctor ordered. But you don't take my word for it. I'm a bartender, not a doctor. It's kind of like a toddy, you know, but not a hot toddy, a cold toddy. All right, folks, we only have time for one more. So number 5, this is my original, the Tartan Cocktail. We're going back to a stirred, spirit-forward drink. It's kind of like a mashup of a Rob Roy and a Rusty Nail, maybe even like a Black Manhattan. It's delicious, you really need to try it. I'm using another Highland single malt. This one is a little bit heavier than the Aberfeldy. It's the Edgedour 10-year, a favorite of mine just in general, but you could use a blended scotch. Any scotch is gonna work here. In a mixing glass, start with 1.5 ounces of your scotch. To that, add 3/4 ounce of sweet vermouth, 1/4 ounce of Drambuie, and 1/4 ounce of Amaro. In this case, I'm using Ramazzotti. Oh, and 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. Now we can add ice and stir. About 30 seconds, as per usual. Strain that off into a chilled cocktail glass. Express some orange oil across the top because it's nice. And it might as well make it look pretty, drop that right on top. That's a thing of beauty. There we have the Tartan Cocktail. Cheers. Ta-da. So yummy, so good. There's a lot going on with that one, but it all comes together really nicely. There is a little bitterness on the end from the Amaro, the sweetness from the Drambuie, you've got the richness from the sweet vermouth, and you've got this nice, bold whiskey that holds up through all of it. So is this a good cocktail? Of course, it is so good. If anything, try that one. You know, I get it. There are a lot of people that say scotch is meant to be sipped on neat or on the rocks or however, and it's so good. It's good that way too, but you are missing out on all of these wonderful scotch cocktails. If I think it's gonna work, I'm gonna try it. Yeah, just know that. Know that. I'm not a purist when it comes to anything. I do what I want. So there it is. Thank you all so much for being here once again. Thank you, Viski, for sponsoring today's film. If you are looking to pick up any bottles of booze, as always, check out my collection on Curiata. Sign up for the newsletter, grab your merch. I will see you next time. Cheers.